Hello, good morning. Welcome to New Forest Morphs. This morning it's Saturday morning and we're feeling great. Emily's come in and joined us, and thank you, Emily, for being our camera lady today.
Hi.
We always love you being in the facility, and you've got some good news for us. And shall I give a hint of what the good news is?
Yeah.
Yeah, should we do that? We're going to share the good news with a little video that Emily's going to home in on. Is he cute or what? He or she, we're not sure the sex yet. What do you think it is? Is it a boy or girl?
I'm saying she for now, but we'll see when she's older.
She's absolutely gorgeous. And what is she, Emily? And what's her name?
She is a Lesser Tenrec.
A Lesser Tenrec?
Well, the whole one is a Madagascan Lesser Hedgehog Tenrec.
A Madagascan Lesser
Hedgehog
Tenrec.
But it's not actually a hedgehog.
It's not a hedgehog. It's more closely related to the elephant family. Last Saturday, Emily was hoping and praying that I would be willing to buy that for her as a Christmas present, and a lot of my viewers softened my heart, and also Emily softened my heart. And cute little animal like that, how can you just say no? I mean, I think one of our YouTubers said it's a no-brainer, go for it. So, I don't know whether that was one of your friends, Emily.
No.
There was a lot of likes in that video, because I did say to help me make a decision, I'd love you guys to tell me whether you think it's a thumbs up, and I got loads of thumbs up on that video. So I don't know whether you were working behind the scenes, Emily, or whether my subscriber
I
face.
created loads of YouTube accounts just to get that.
But it does lead me on nicely, actually, because the topic for today that we're going to be discussing is socialisation of animals, and also getting that in balance with respecting the need for them to have privacy. And it's a fine balance, isn't it, Emily? You're the queen of socialisation in our home. Emily's very sociable with animals, and that's one of the reasons why you're becoming a veterinary nurse. You care for animals deeply, and you want to spend time with them, and it has helped you on your journey of recovery and healing with some of your health issues over the past few years. And one of the reasons as a father I'm very supportive of your choices is because I know how important those animals are to your well-being.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that, Emily?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you're planning to socialise your new baby, if you like, because obviously it's quite young, it's going to be nervous. Travelled nearly 2 hours on a journey yesterday, and the reason why we haven't brought it into the facility, Emily, is because you're respecting its need for settling down in its viv. You've set up a lovely viv, you've invested quite a lot of money in giving it really good housing, but let's use your recent addition as part of our discussion and get your views as well, Emily. So tell me, what are your plans to still know that the animal's love, but also respecting its need to have some privacy? How would you go about that to get the balance right?
Well, they do tend to sleep a lot, so just respecting that, like when they're sleeping, not just to keep handling them, normally let them come to you, and like when you're feeding them, they'll come out most of the time. Okay. And then after that you can give them like a little cuddle and stuff. Yeah. But they are nocturnal, so it's normally night time's the best time to...
Really? So they're a bit like snakes, they're nocturnal, and most of the activity of our snakes is at night. Yeah. In this facility, we probably spend an hour cleaning in the mornings, and when we clean, what you see just for the recording is the lights are fully on in the facility. This wouldn't be the normal way we clean. We normally clean with subdued lights, and that's a good point that I want to make here, is that the less interference we have with our animals, the better is the general rule. And I think Rob at Raw Balls has made some really important points which I'm taking on board, because I think sometimes when we're new keepers, we sometimes in our heads get this idea that snakes are for our socialisation as well as their socialisation. In reality, you probably find that the majority of snakes will be quite comfortable in the wild, living in a hole for the majority of the time and coming out at night. So the idea of socialisation is completely alien to a wild ball python. And when we take these snakes into our facilities, we've then got to ask the question, do we need to respect what they would be doing in the wild? Now, let me get your views, Emily, and what your thoughts are on that, because obviously you're quite new to ball pythons, but you're the queen of socialisation in our facility. If I've got a quite a feisty animal that constantly wants to tag us, you come in and you seem to turn it around within, well, not straight away, it takes weeks and sometimes months, but you don't overhandle them. You know when to put them back, don't you? But you will give them a little bit of time.
Just knowing how to handle them as well, like making sure you don't like just put your hand in and grab them kind of thing.
Yeah, coming in from behind and just I think one of the points I'd like to make is that I believe there is a difference between a domesticated animal and a wild animal.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think when you've got, these snakes, it's or like any animal that you should always try and make their habitat like what they would have in the wild.
Absolutely. And so having a hide is typical of them living in a very small space. They like to be in small spaces and comfortable. And you've got a vivarium for your new animal, quite a big one, but it's got 2 or 3 small hides in different heat spots at different levels. There's plenty of options for that animal to go to.
They are semi-arboreal as well, so I've got some like logs that they can climb up and.
Fantastic. So you've done your research, and I've looked at your setup, and maybe when the time is right, we can show our viewers your setup on that, because I know most ball python keepers are animal lovers, and I think they would really love to have a look at your setup. But so I think from my perspective, kind of quite new coming into this, is that when the hatchlings come out of the eggs, the very first person they're going to see is us. And I know I used to do a lot of wildlife photography, and I was just trying to make this point to Rob, because I know Rob and I have different views on how we both, and it's healthy, and we have a really healthy debate, and Rob's got his views, and he's quite strong with his views because he's got a lot more experience, and I have to really listen carefully and to pay attention, which I do. But also I'm quite a strong personality myself, and I've got to be really convinced before I'm won over, and it will take me time, Rob, to kind of come to your way of thinking on this one. But we do have a difference between the way I'm going and the way that Rob goes on his collection, and that's not necessarily a right or wrong answer, because each of us may have a different approach that suits us and suits our animals. But I think as a general rule, giving privacy to our animals and not messing with them too much, I think brings benefits all round, so that when we do spend time with them, their stress levels are really low, and when we do pick them up and do photography, whether we're selling or we're showing it to friends, we try to keep the photography and the filming as low as possible. So anyway, coming back to my point, when a hatchling is born in captivity, the first person it's going to see is us. And in my experience, and I've had about 20 clutches, which is nowhere near as many as most breeders, but in those 20 clutches, 9 out of 10, 90% of those clutches, most of the hatchlings are pretty docile. They're not fiery. For some reason I don't seem to get fiery hatchlings, with one exception of course, which is the last, it was the one that we had with the Orange Dream and the Banana Clutch, Pastel Orange Dream Banana Clutch. The girls were very feisty, weren't they? But the mother, Hella. You remember you named them Hella, and I thought that was quite rare for us to have fiery hatchlings, wasn't it? I mean, it's quite rare for us to have that. But one of the reasons I think is that the mother was very feisty. The father is as docile as they come. He eats like a champion. He loves spending time with us, and the mother is complete opposite, and we don't spend much time with the mother at all because she wants her privacy, and we respect that. So my feeling is that I think we have to know your animals to know what to give them. Even though we want to sometimes spend time with them, it may not be appropriate, and there are other times where I believe that snakes want to spend time with us. So my theory is that when the hatchlings hatch and we spend time with them, we clean them, we prepare them, we feed them, if they get ill, we nurse them back to health. There's a bond that builds, which is slightly different to a wild animal. And I think that a wild animal, when I was doing my wildlife photography, I spent years and years trying to find a close-up image of a kingfisher, and most of the ones I saw were at long range were adults, and they were at long range for a reason. They'd learnt to be more careful because of the predators in the wild. But I was then with Jared when he was quite young, and we were fishing the Hampshire Avon, and underneath where we were fishing was a kingfisher nest, and lo and behold, out came some juvenile kingfishers, and they literally within a few feet of our fishing rods, and you could see they were juveniles, and they were oblivious to the fact that we were potential predators, and they weren't bothered. And I find that really interesting, that I think sometimes, although animals have a built-in instinct, I think sometimes they learn predatory actions, survival, and they learn to survive. So I wonder whether, even though I know that our animals are engineered to be predators, they're designed to be predators, I think there's a couple of switches in their brains. One is a switch of I want to feed, I want to be aggressive, I'm going to hunt and I'm going to go for it. The other one is that I can be docile if I want to be. And I think that perhaps there isn't a right and wrong answer here. I think there's a balance between the two, and I'm glad that they are. And I think that's one of the reasons why ball pythons are so popular, is because they don't lose their feeding instinct if their husbandry is correct, and even if you spend a little bit of time with them. Obviously you wouldn't handle them on feeding day, but what we're saying is that I believe, in my experience, out of 160 animals, only 2 or 3 of our animals are picky, and they're the ones that we don't handle, in actual fact. Now Rob came up with an example where he took on board an animal that was not off food, and within 3 days he said, I left it alone in my quarantine area and it was feeding within a few days. And I think he was using that as a reason that sometimes all we need to do is leave them alone. And I think for many cases that could be true, but I don't agree with it completely. I mean, my opinion is I think each animal has its own distinct personality and individual set of feelings, as much as we do as humans. And I think that I have a spiritual connection with them that I can sense and feel, which is may not be scientific, but I do think that nature is all linked together in different ways, and how even when I catch a salmon, I'm respecting that salmon because I'm in connection with the salmon when I'm catching it, and he's in connection with me, and there's something going on which I can't really explain, which is this connection between us animals, but it is a bond and it is a sensitivity that we can develop. So it doesn't really answer the question as to how we go about socializing, but the other thing I was going to say is that if you look at a couple of our top breeders, the fathers of the ball python industry, Brian Barczyk, and we've also got the father of Nerd, and I can't remember his name now, but he does a lot of socialization of reptiles, and he can turn around an aggressive animal into one that he can safely pick up and hold and show people for educational purposes. But then when it's feeding day, they don't lose their feeding instinct. I mean, if you look at their videos, they come out all guns blazing. So these are the fathers of our hobby who are teaching us that socialization and respect for their instincts can go hand in hand. And I think it'd be interesting. I think I've just invited Rob and I to do a little mini study over the next few years. I'm going to probably stay with a socialization approach, and I think Rob goes for perhaps less of a socialization approach, but he goes for not messing with them. And I think, personally, I think the answer is between the two. They're probably two extreme views, but the answer, I think, is a happy balance between the two, is what I'm guessing. But let me know your views. Let me know whether you think you feel that socialization and the balance. Let me know your thoughts on that, because it'll be really interesting to know. And it's a really good debate. I think we can debate this in love, and we can debate this with respect. We don't have to agree. But that's what I like about Rob, is that I do love to hear strong views, and I do like to know his feelings, and I'll give him mine as well. So we do kind of have quite an interesting exchange. It's a healthy debate, and there's nothing wrong in that. I don't think we're going to fall out over it, because I think we respect each other too much. But I think it's really healthy to be able to have, we talked about mental health issues, that, I'm not taking anything personally, and hopefully Rob won't take anything personally if I give him my equal strong views. But having that kind of debate is healthy, because then we can adjust our systems if we have to. And I'm going to adjust some of the things that Rob said on that particular message. I'm going to adjust. And one of them he was saying is that when you're handling a snake, your body temperature is 36 degrees centigrade. And he was saying that if you handle a snake too much, you're effectively putting your male or your female on an extreme hot spot, which I thought, wow, I never really looked at it from that perspective. So I am going to be adjusting a little bit more. And I think on the whole, we tend to spend 1 or 2 minutes socializing our snakes anyway. I don't have enough time to spend days and days and days looking after 160 animals on a very close social connection. So it's a very interesting one. But I think what he's saying there is that if you want the fertility of your animals to be absolutely spot on, you would avoid your animals going on too much of a hot spot. So I think the less we handle them to that extent, if our end goal is to breed and to produce wonderful hatchlings, it may well be that we have to minimize the amount of handling to achieve those goals. But some of us may have different goals. It may be that you just really want to keep them as pets, and that's a different approach. But I think he's made some really valid points. Now, with that said, good news, Emily, is, and you'll be pleased to know, Jab was looking forward to this, all our hatchlings have now shed out today. Do you want to have a peek sneak?
Sure.
Come on, let's go and have a look at some snakes. So, again, we will do this carefully. So let's have a look and see. I think they've all shed out. Look at all those sheds. Can you see all those sheds? And there's a whole family all living in harmony. And if you notice, even though we're looking, they're not stressing. We won't touch them. We'll let them just chill and enjoy each other, but they look beautiful. What do you think, Emily? And I think what we'll do is we'll set them up later in individual rubs, and we'll probably do a group picture. Now, the other thing that Rob was saying is that we've got to be careful using light boxes. He thinks that if we put our snakes in the light box too much, it stresses them out, and for them it's a shock. And I think he's right, actually. I think he's right there. I think that excessive use of the light box is not a good thing, and I'm probably guilty of that. I put my hands up. I shouldn't really use it as much as I do, but I guess my enthusiasm to share the hobby and to show my snakes in the best light has probably got the better of me, and I need to kind of scale that back. And I think you'll probably find today I probably would have taken those snakes straight into that light box to show you how beautiful they are, and I've resisted that because Rob's taught me a principle: don't shock your animals unnecessarily. So only when you need the best photography, when they're ready to sell or you want to share with a friend, then I think it's appropriate that you do get the best photography, but we don't want to put our snakes in too much of the limelight, and I think that's really good counsel, so thank you for that. So the next thing, Emily, is we're going to talk about the Axanthic Clown project. So today we're talking about the Axanthics. Now, we've got here, actually, in fact, yesterday's video we did show you that we got a female Axanthic called Curiosity, and that's on yesterday's clown video, so we don't need to bring her out. And we've also got a male who's double het for Axanthic Clown. 2 double hets, and I got my maths wrong, and again, thank you to Rob for kind of adjusting me there, because he's got a very similar project going on his end, and so I think he's very keen to have a look at that. So it's 1 out of 16, so if we end up with a clutch from these pair, it's not 1 out of 8, it's 1 out of 16. And Rob was explaining to me that there are ways that we can improve those odds, and we have also got 2 other Axanthics, but they're not Axanthic Clowns, they're Axanthic Pied. So one of them is Thor, which you've seen before, and he's up on that rub up there. And the other one is the VPI Axanthic female that's been our picky feet eater, and we very rarely handle her. It's interesting, we don't handle her, but she's very picky. And she didn't actually eat this week, which surprised us because she's eaten 3 or 4 small Maltese on the trot, but she decided not to take this time around. It might be that she's preparing for a shed, it might be that she's got sufficient in her and she wants to grow slowly, and we've got to respect that. So as much as we've given her cocoa husk and good humidity and all the temps are right, we've got to work with the animal. And I think if I was to handle her too much, I think that would then prolong her feeding, so I back off and respect that. But we're not even going to show her under the spotlight, because if you've got a picky feeder, the last thing you want to do is expose her to light and expose her to overhandling. You want to leave. I think what Rob's saying is some of the best remedies is to leave them alone, and I think there's a lot of sense in that. Now, what I've got over here, Emily, if you come with me, we've got the Morph market calculator up here. This is a really helpful, I think this is a really helpful thing to do, and I don't do it enough. As you see, I try to work it out in my head, but here is an example of how we can improve the odds from 1 out of 16 to 1 out of 14. I've put in here an Axanthic VPI.
1 out of 4.
Sorry?
You said 14.
1 out of 4, sorry. So I've got here an Axanthic VPI boy who's 100% het for clown. Now if I can find one of those, which I have, and I can source that for 800, there's one on the European Morph market I can get hold of for $1,000 or 1,000 euros. That's actually not a bad price. I was pleasantly surprised, so thank you. But by doing the extra research to see if I can have better odds on my project, I've realised that spending 1,000 euros could actually unlock the odds by improving them quite dramatically, and that's because I've got one visual in the boy and I've got 100% het for clown. So we're moving away from double het to double het, to visual het to visual het. Now notice I haven't gone for a visual het Axanthic female, I've gone for a clown female, and I've gone for 100% het Axanthic VPI. And the reason I've done that is because if you have a visual to a non-visual, you get 100% hets. And same with the clown. If you've got a visual clown to a non-visual clown, you end up with a 100% het clown. So there's no 60% chances. You actually know that you've got the recessive in all your population. So we end up with 4 outcomes. There's a 25% chance of hitting the target, which is the Axanthic VPI clown. There's a 25% chance of hitting a visual clown, which is 100% het for the target, and vice versa. There's a 25% chance of hitting the Axanthic VPI, 100% het for clown, and then even the double het that you hit is a double het for sure. So all of your offspring, by making that investment, so it's going to cost me probably about another 2,000 euros, it will give me 100% guaranteed on the hets, and it will give me much better odds on hitting the target. But I could go 5 or 6 years with double het project, thinking I'm in the project on the cheap, but it could cost me more in the long run with food, maintenance, cleaning. Sometimes it's worth spending a bit extra to further your projects. Now obviously everyone's different, everyone's got different budgets, but it made me realise that maybe I'm going into this project perhaps the wrong way, and I need to realign what I'm doing. The other interesting thing is we've got the VPI Axanthic Pieds, which are double visuals, both the boy and the girl. If I keep with the VPI Axanthic, because all the Axanthics are not compatible, you have to go for the specific line. So you can't cross an MJ version of Axanthic with a VPI, they are not compatible. You'd end up creating double hets. So whichever one you go for in your collection, you keep consistent. So the VPI, I've gone for the VPI version because I like it, but also I've got my Pied in the VPI version because eventually I'm going to cross them over and I'm going to produce triple hets. So having a male Axanthic VPI is much more valuable to me because I've got 20 female clowns that I can choose 1 or 2 of the full visual clowns and guarantee 100% hets. But I haven't got very many female VPI Axanthics, so it would be wrong for me to switch this around and go for a clown that's 100% het for VPI Axanthic, because it'd be less valuable to me, because I want to produce some visual clowns that are 100% het for Axanthic, if you see what I'm saying. So when you're making your choice of male or female, you've got to look at your collection and work out where's that boy going to go and how can we generate more females for the project knowing they're 100% hets, and that increases your chances and increases your opportunity to hit what you want to hit. But also integrating it with other projects, so you're hitting 3-way recessives as well. So I just thought I should use that as an example. Let's have a look and see what they look like. Now if you click on this button here, it'll take you to an example of a visual, so you can see what the end product is. Now tell me of those, Emily, which ones would you like to have? Which ones would you go for?
I like that one, top one.
This one?
Yeah.
That one to me bursts quality, and I just love the crispness of the pattern. I like the darkness of the blacks. I like the head stamp, and I like the fact that it's been beautifully fed, so it's nice and healthy. To me, I look at that and think, if I had my choice, this one is standing out to me. This one is also standing out. Now, interesting enough, 2 different breeders, similar prices. They're both $4,500 each. This is the American market. But look at the difference. Now, this is a beautiful one. Now, I like the look of this one as well, because this one I can see deep blacks around the alien heads, whereas here the blacks are deep on the dorsal. So there are 2 different variations of clown here. So the VPI Axanthic may well be very similar, but depending on the clown you're using determines the pattern. So you look at that, and both of those are desirable. I'd probably go for the male because I want a male, but that female looks beautiful too. So either way, there could be some blade in that one for all I know. In fact, if you look at it, it's got B on it, which tells me that could be blade. So let's have a look and see if I'm right. No, I'm not right, because the B stands for ball python. I'm not trying to be clever here, but can you see though that if you look carefully at this, the pattern is very strong down the dorsal. So if we go back now to the choices, let's see what combinations we can put into here. So you've got a killer bee, VP Axanthic, which is a killer bee is a spider, and I think killer would be double pastel, I think.
Don't really know.
This one here I like the look of, VP Axanthic spider. Look what the spider does. That's incredible. And if you can get a low wobble spider in there, that would be amazing, wouldn't it, Emily? Just look at that, it just blows you away, doesn't it? Did that one blow you away? Okay, let's have a look at it. See what it looks like. It's 4,500 US New York. But look at the head stamp on it. That just blows me away. Incredible, isn't it? Okay. Let's see if there's any other nice snakes in here. So anyway, I think I'll just show you that very briefly. And just to finish the video, I'm going to do a big shout out. Now the shout out I would like to give is one of our good friends and family, and it is Ed and his beautiful family at Racket Ralph's. Now let's just have a look and see. He's put up a video recently. Here's the family. So let's just let them introduce themselves. They've waited 6 months because of COVID for all their pickups. They all came on that particular day, and they're super excited because they've been waiting really a long time for them. And I'll just show you the excitement.
They're all in good health, or appear to be. We've had most of them out. Well, we've had a couple of them out of the boxes just to check, but several of these literally we got them here half an hour ago or so, and these kids have just come home from school, and we are doing this unboxing. So we're going to just share each snake with you. First of all, a huge thank you and shout out to Luke from Reptasia, who was the courier.
So what Ed does there, he goes through and gives acknowledgement to all the breeders, and there's a lot of snakes, but please go and have a look at their channel. I find it really beautiful because it's a family getting behind. You've got Reuben over here who bought his first ever ball python from us a year ago. They've now got nearly 40 animals in their collection, with more coming. And this is an example of a family that's jumping in big time and falling in love with hobby and passion. And we've got Miriam over here. I just can't remember the name of the younger daughter, but I think if I move it forward, I think Ed will introduce the family. Let's see if I can just...
Hello and welcome to Racket Ralph's. It's Ed, Miriam, who's got a fit of the giggles, Anna and Reuben. And
Anna.
This is the extremely long and greatly anticipated by us video of our unboxing video. We have
finally got it. So there we go, Anna. I apologise, Anna. My memory isn't as good as it should be. So there you go, beautiful family. Please go and have a check them out and follow. We very much appreciate it. So Emily's off to do some Christmas shopping. I'm off to do some business, but I'm probably going to do all my Christmas shopping online. But I want to wish everyone a very lovely weekend, and we will catch you hopefully tomorrow. Bye bye for now.